The water's fine, homie, jump into the deep end. Sow it, you will reap it. We talking how to start it, how to grow it, how to keep it. Take a deep breath. You are now rocking with Founder Secrets.
Desiree Verdejo, welcome to Founder Secrets. So nice to have you on today.
Thanks for having me.
Desiree founded Hyperskin, which is a skin product that I use, by the way. Look at this right here. It's almost empty. I got to order more, actually. So nice. I'm really, really excited to have you on. You built such a great brand and a company and product. And so we're going to learn a lot about that in the beauty industry and your journey. But first, our icebreaker is, what's the most important thing you learned in school? I'll go first. Taylor may or may not want to go next if his relationship with school is...
Oh, more about this relationship.
You want to go, Taylor?
No, you go first.
So I think, look, for my first 16 years of my life, I didn't read a book at all. And we didn't have AI to summarize it. We had Spark Notes and all these old school tools, and I just never read anything. I was like, why would you read something if I could always get the summary without reading it? And so I discovered the reading kind of late due to a teacher I had. It was really a really great teacher, and that kind of gave me the joy of some books that I could really learn from the process of reading. It's not just about extracting the key points. It's the journey of going through each word and every sentence and fiction. So I think that continues to be something I devote a lot of time to, and it wouldn't have happened without this teacher. And I'm very grateful for that.
So what is the most important thing I learned in school? I think one of the things I learned was how to get around the rules. I was not a good student. I was similar to you, Flavio. I read one book in school, and I was so proud. It was called Alas, Babylon. Did y'all read this? It's about a nuclear war, and it's about nuclear bomb drops, and it's about what happens after the bomb drops. And it's actually a really, really, really good book.
What class was this for?
English. History? English. Yeah. No, it's not. It's not a political book. It's about survival and about the human, perseverance, and it's a fantastic book. So I read that in 3 days, and I was so proud. And then I went to take the test, and I remember very specifically I got a 92%, and I was so upset because I got that was better than any score I'd ever gotten probably on a test aside from math. I was always very good at math, and I went up to my English teacher and I go, "Hey, this isn't fair. I should get 100. I actually read the book this time. I know I normally get 40, but I read it, and I thought she would give me 100, and she didn't. So I guess what I learned is that reading the book doesn't get you 100. And then it just kept reinforcing, if I follow the rules, I still don't get 100. So I'm no longer going to follow the rules. And so even when I diverted a little bit to follow them, I went back to not following the rules. No more reading books. Back to Spark Notes, just like Fabio.
Gosh, you guys were very different students than me. I was teacher's pet, A student, read all of the books, did all of the things. And I think I still was very intimidated by not being the best or being worried about how I, showed up. And I remember my first year of law school, going into it and thinking everyone here is so much smarter than me and I'm going to have to work so hard to keep up. And I think the biggest thing I learned is no, they're really not. A lot of them didn't read the book. A lot of them have no clue what they want to do, which is perfectly fine. It's just 3 years of something cool that they're doing. And I really realized not to put so much pressure on thinking everyone around you is so much more brilliant than you are. You're good. And I kind of am really happy that I learned that in law school because it's been helpful as I've gone on to sit in other rooms. Yeah.
So that's perfect segue because I've never heard anyone describe law school as 3 years of something cool that you're doing. And
I love law school. There's a lot of pressure for A's and getting certain grades if you want a certain type of job. But for purely the intellectual, the reading, the conversations, I just think it's really cool. I would love to know what law students are talking about right now in this political climate, and it must be cool. I don't know. I enjoyed it, but yes, it's not cool for everyone.
It sounds like you really enjoyed it. So I'm wondering, why? It sounds like you enjoyed it in order to learn more from peers and conversation, more so than just having the stamp to get the job. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I went for both. I went for the stamp. I'm not going to lie. I went because I had no clue what I wanted to do. And I was sort of always interested in business. And so I thought I'd either go to business school or take the legal path and pursue corporate law. And I ended up, doing that corporate law path and practicing law for 7 years. But I think what needs to be stressed more is that law school is so different than the practice of law. So in law school, you're talking about, all of these, wonderful issues and reading case law and debating, and the debates are friendly and intellectual and etc. But once you get into like a law firm, that's not, what it looks like. You're behind a desk for very long days, and that banter is in no way part of what the day to day looks like. So I really loved law school, and I love the friends that I made because they're all doing really cool things, whether they're lawyers or on the entrepreneurial side like us, or in the arts. But yeah, the practice was not as cool. The practice was not cool at all.
Sounds like
Not
a
at
little
all.
more monotonous,
It was
contract.
this. Yeah, I like a range. I think the most interesting thing about being a founder is that, some days you're doing things that you're great at. For me, I love the brand building side. I love developing products. I love meeting with other creators. And then some days you're figuring out like taxes or operations, and it may not be your favorite thing, but it's definitely something new and connecting you with some sort of new world. And law is the opposite. Law is like, you're great at this. Now do this 10 more times, right? Like, and charge hundreds
Totally.
of dollars an hour for it. So I just didn't thrive in that setting of trying to be an expert in something and doing it over and over again. So
And so, by the way, I always hear like people advising founders to do a business in something they're already good at, right? Where they already have experience and knowledge, and like some
yeah.
legal software AI thing would be like what a VC might advise you. But instead, you went for a beauty product. So, yeah, how'd you make that leap?
Yeah, I think that advice makes sense. I think you should start a business in something that you could talk about all day, right? Something that you would be excited to encounter different areas of, all week. And so for me, I had this acne journey that I have experienced since I was a teenager. So I have always been, sorry, did that loudness come across?
No,
Or
you're
is that
good. Keep
That's fine.
I'm
going.
so sorry. I'll start again.
That's fine.
Okay, I'll start from the beginning of the sentence, and I won't stop again. You never realize how loud something is until you need to
That's
be
okay.
aware of it. So for me, I've always struggled with acne. When I was like a teenager, really dealt with acne, and have always been really aware of how good I feel when my skin is healthy and how horrible it feels when it's not. And I also, over the years, just gained way too much information about skincare and ingredients and beauty treatments, which is not my world, but something I'm very obsessed with. So I had all of this information that was really relevant to skincare. And at the time that I switched from law to beauty, I was really excited about the landscape still, but it's a very different one. So I first moved over to the beauty world in 2015 through another venture, not Hyper. And at that time, there was a rise of indie beauty brands, a rise of women founded brands, and a rise of Black women founded brands. The hair care space was shifting dramatically from products for like straightening Black hair to natural hair products. And it, created this multi-billion-dollar rise. And, I was just really excited by it. I wanted to be in. Like, I just wanted to, like, I would go to events. And it's funny because now I'm on the panels at those events, but I'd go to events to like meet founders and tell them that I love what they built, and like to get a goodie bag with like a product that I liked. And I was just kind of trying to find myself into this world in different ways, and ultimately left my law firm to start a beauty boutique in New York City. Don't ever start a beauty boutique in New York City. Retail in New York City is not for the weak, maybe not for the strong either. But it was my first venture into business in beauty, and ultimately like made me see the holes in this space. So I was selling hair care products, skincare products, and makeup, and online and in store. But being in store is where I realized like how people shop and what they're looking for and what the hell is missing. And also it made me realize like, oh, you think you have this like unique issue, but like everyone coming in sounds like you. Because if someone has a dry patch or a big pimple or this or that, they have the same like feeling, right? They want to fix it. They want to get to the bottom of it. They want to know how long and what they need. So yeah, I just learned so much about like customers and products and what was missing, and ended up putting it all together and crafting Hyper through that business experience.
It seems so. I also experienced some real acne issues as a teenager. I completely empathize with
Go
the
us.
the feeling, I went through 2 bouts of Accutane, like the nuclear option of acne.
Gosh. Yeah, the
Uh,
old school, like,
yeah, I don't even know if it's legal anymore. It had so many warnings. I had to sign
yes,
so many disclosures, or like I won't sue anybody if I take this.
I'm familiar.
But it worked. I mean,
Yes.
it worked. But what in hearing you talk about it, what I'm remembering from that time is that it was kind of a low trust environment. Maybe it's not today, but it felt like a low trust environment to me, where there were a lot of people talking about things that really didn't work, or things that were these kind of, it was a low trust place where it was like, well, who do I
Yeah.
trust around this? The dermatologist is telling me something, but I read something else on the internet, or my friends are telling me something else, and so how are you able to gain trust in a space that is, where you were a lawyer, right? Like it seems hard to kind of make that leap. So how are you able to build trust in that way?
You know what? I've not heard the term low trust space, but I think you've defined it really well. And I think it's why skincare is like exciting, but also like very overwhelming for people. I think it remains that way. Like I sort of experienced skincare and acne in the same era that you did, where there were few options, very low trust options. It was like, do we want to sort of blast this out of the park, or do we want to buy a bunch of things that very likely will not work, but that everyone is telling me is magic? I think we've moved beyond that because customers are savvy and also things work. Like if you can formulate brilliant products today, if you know what you're doing and if you take the time. And so I think through a lot of ways, being on the floor of that store made me realize what customers want, right? And I don't think they want the Accutane of the past, where you have to like give up so much. You have to say, I'm willing to take all of these risks for this. I think we want this safe, balanced approach. And so, or at least my customer does. And so I really took a look at, what do they want? They want something consistent. They want something safe. They want something reliable. And really took the time to build that, and work with the right team to build that. And then I think the second path, which is a slow burn, is to prove that, right? And so we, I think, got to where we are in terms of being on the shelves of Sephora, et cetera, because we have a bunch of people that are like, this works, you know?
So it sounds like you've been able to prove through test cases that this works. Although I'm wondering, like, how do you even know that for sure, right? Like, there's always pictures of like before and after, and everybody says their stuff works. And I guess there's no clinical studies in this space to know for sure.
There are clinical studies, but I think I see the clinical studies for us as a way to say this is a formula worth investing in because X many people have said so. I think also social media, you can manipulate social media, but people are really connected and speaking honestly on social media. Obviously there are people, there are creators, there are influencers that make money saying things work every day. And every day they're telling you something new that works. But there are also regular people just giving their opinions and sharing their day to day. And we make sure that we're getting the word across through both of those categories, because you want the influencers, you want the sales, you want those partnerships, but you also want a nurse that found your formula or an esthetician that is always recommending products to spread the word as well. Word of mouth is incredibly valuable. So I think it's really about kind of making sure that the day-to-day people are just as loud about your products as the influencers, because people are savvy about influencers at this stage as well.
Right. Now, how did you get so maybe rewind back, you were having some trouble with acne, you tried different things. How do you go from that to having this formula that nobody else has that works? Not to mention, it's not like nobody's investing in the space, right? You got like L'Oreal and all these people, billions of dollars pouring in. And how did you come up with this formula that works without the big companies behind you?
I should backtrack and speak to what we did well and different, right? Because it's true. Like we can't out-formulate L'Oreal if L'Oreal wants to formulate for a space. We launched in 2020, and our brand Hyper targets under-addressed concerns in the skincare space. The first one being hyperpigmentation, which, if you don't know, it is, scarring, acne scarring, dark spots that are very commonly present on deeper skin tones. So what we did well was formulate a product that works, but what we did incredibly well was find our market. So what we did incredibly well was speak to this multicultural audience that these other legacy brands hadn't been speaking to. So we created a formula for a concern that everyone deals with, but that is incredibly common in deeper skin tones. And then we said, we're going to speak to everyone, but we're going to center this multicultural audience that other brands haven't centered. And I think that was where we, thrived. was, the skincare space is huge, and there have always been legacy brands, but these brands haven't always spoken to all markets and spoken to all needs. So something like hyperpigmentation is a really niche concern for L'Oreal. And for us, it's a central concern. And so everything that we formulated, we just sort of speak to a different center. So we just created an SPF we launched this summer, and super excited for SPF season to roll around again for people that don't use it every day. But we really said this product, if it does nothing else, needs to look really well on all of us. I can't look like Casper when I put this SPF on. Like, it needs to be glowy and dewy and clear, and in a way that we all, in a definition that we all recognize. And so for us, it's really like recentering the standard and speaking to our community. And what happens is when you put something good into the world and it works well for everyone finds out about it. But I think what we did different than L'Oreal is we shifted who we were speaking to, and we got to our audience in that way, and we got to a broader audience in that way. So, but yeah, we work with a brilliant team of chemists. Our chemists formulate many products on the shelves of Sephora and beyond. But yeah, it was really about like shifting the center, shifting the concern that we're speaking to. The product you picked up, our hero product, is a vitamin C serum. Certainly not the first person to create a vitamin C serum. It's brightening, it's great for anti-aging, but we really packed it with these ingredients that speak to dark spots. And so someone like myself with acne-prone skin and the dark marks that follow, that serum is going to perform higher than another brand serum, which is really focused on anti-aging and all that they're focused on. So we just shifted the conversation, and we found our audience that way. And I think that's where skincare is right now. There's so much stuff in the space that brands really just need to find their pocket, be really clear about who they're creating for, and find them in really authentic ways.
Gotcha. I see now. So there's not just vitamin C in this thing. There's turmeric, kojic
Yeah.
acid,
Acid is
apple enzyme,
fruit
and
enzymes, nice and gentle. We have a balance of like clinical
very,
and natural ingredients. So we'll have our biotin and kojic acid and vitamin C, and then we'll have, fruit enzymes and things of that nature to really balance the formulas so that we're not doing the old.
how fast people try to copy you after you launched?
Well, after we launched, what we saw is that all of the major brands launched the dark spot serum, right? So, and it
Plus the
doesn't
small guys. You got the big guys and the small guys.
them. But if you go into Sephora today, you'll see, even brands that had a vitamin C serum will now have a dark spot formula. And it's not always the central formula for that brand. But of course, once a brand sees, oh, this is a concern and we haven't addressed it, then they are able to create their version. And so, that's always going to be our competition. But I think our customers can feel when they're our central focus versus an add-on. And so we really just have to lean into like our central focus. We can't compete with a legacy brand's formula for formula, but we can remind customers that like we are thinking of their needs, we are formulating for them, and everything about our brand, from our storytelling to our products, reflect that.
That's such a key question. Actually, I'm wondering, Taylor, how you deal with this, because I know we had this back at Medicare. It was a very niche product, and we were the best in the market at that niche thing. But the company needs to grow, and eventually, we kind of maxed out that particular niche, and we expanded to do some other stuff. Like a lot of our competitors, like you were talking about in the beauty space, very similar in our space. Like, well, now we got to do these other things, and we did those other things, but we were never as good at them. And the brand kind of got lost in that.
That's real.
But it's a tough balance, right? You could stay with a niche and then not grow as much, or you could go broader, but potentially, fail and dilute your existing customers. So, Taylor, I'm wondering, how did you deal with this?
And I think
That's a
we
good question.
struggle
Please
with
tell me,
it.
Taylor, because we're still in the thick of it.
Yeah, I think we we struggle with it here. I think I struggled with it in my last company. The challenge is that it's hard to pass up money, right? So even a non kind of core customer, their dollars are the same on your reports as somebody who's kind of right in line. I think about this all the time. I think about this idea of who do we really sell to, who gets 100% value from what we sell versus somebody who gets 50%, but they still pay full price. I don't have a good answer. I think I think more disciplined people than me are more disciplined about it. They say, look, if you're not in this kind of set of criteria or whatnot, then you can't do business with us. And or that we're not targeting you.
Yeah.
I don't know. How'd you answer it, Bobby?
Yeah, like I said, we went broad, and I think it did help get a little more revenue, but it diluted, right, the original customers and base. So in hindsight, I think it's still better to go broad, but I think
Yeah.
the better play would have been to be broader kind of earlier. I think once we hung our hat on a particular niche, couldn't really leave it because all the customers knew that was our brand. So the better play probably would have been to be a little more thoughtful about it earlier in the company's cycle and foresee this, but I didn't.
I actually think the opposite. Like if I would have gone back at this company, I would have gone much more specific much earlier and
Right.
created much more specific. So, for instance, different industries for our product and newsletter, it's worth a different value to them, and so they'll pay more. Like certain ones will pay more than others, and so why don't I take advantage of that, right? So if I'm selling into fintech, then it's worth a lot more to them, so let's charge a lot more. And if I'm selling into a small consumer company that has 12 employees, well, it's worth a lot less, so let's charge less over there. More of a value-based pricing. Like I'm thinking a lot about pricing these days, and it's so hard. We have hundreds and hundreds of customers and all these relationships, and it's hard to do it now. But early on, it would have been so much easier.
And you don't have that flexibility with consumer products, though. So that's wonderful that you do. Hold on once. I'm going to move. I feel like it is loud. Is it not? It is, right?
I think it's okay. We can hear you. You're much louder than the background.
Okay. I'm sorry.
And so is that so? Sephora, congrats on being in Sephora, by the way. I think that's the Shangri-La of any consumer brand in the beauty space, right? And you've achieved this huge milestone. How did you do that? I'm wondering, is it because you were a niche kind of brand and product that allowed you, and otherwise you couldn't have gotten into Sephora?
Yeah. So I think, to be clear, there's a niche and then there's a small market, right? And the two are not synonymous. So we center deeper skin tones that haven't been addressed in these concerns. It's a $15 billion market in the US, right?
Wow.
And there's a market in Europe, and there's a huge market in the Middle East, and there's a market in America, and there's a market in Africa. So there's a huge global market for what we're focusing on, which is very different than the facts that historically the skincare industry they didn't look at men, right? There are a lot of men that probably use skincare, but the skincare industry said middle-aged white women are focused on anti-aging, and that is what we're going to focus on. What we're realizing today and why there's such a boom is because we all have needs, and we're buying. We're true customers. So, now what you're seeing in Sephora are a number of niches being satisfied. So I think what you will see are that there are these really specific brands thriving in Sephora, and they're all speaking to different people. So one brand is very Gen Z because, this is a customer just getting into skincare. You're seeing lots of targeted acne brands or multicultural brands. You're seeing brands for like older women.
I guess my question is, do you think Sephora, values a lot the fact that your brand targets deeper skin tones as a primary customer? Do you think that's the main reason you're there?
I think it's part of it. I think more important than what we value, I think Sephora is always looking for things that are additive to what they have, right? Just like when you shop for anything, you're looking for what you don't have.
Does that even happen? Sorry to interrupt. Like, say you launch a brand, you have a website, you got these customers, you're acquiring them, and somebody from Sephora just shoots you an email like, "Hey, we'd like to talk."
Yeah, they reached out. Most of the
really?
retailers that I've talked to were a lot of LinkedIn, DMs, emails, very cold.
Wow.
So yeah, very.
Did you message them?
I didn't message Sephora. They actually DM'd us.
Wow.
But then once Sephora wrote us, then I reached out to Ulta and Target because I wanted to explore the landscape. But yeah, we get inbound all of the time from different brands because they're watching social media. At the time we launched, it was Instagram, but now Instagram and TikTok, or maybe next week, not TikTok.
Another 2 days.
So yeah, I think more than that, we focus on deeper skin tones, that we focus on something that they didn't have. They are, they realized that they didn't have this product category, and that they were also recruiting customers from different backgrounds, because the same way the skincare space targeted one audience, the retailers, were sort of aligned. And so once you brought in the customer base, you got to broaden your offerings. But I think more than that, any retailer wants to know that you have a community. They don't really care, what our product is, but that we can drive, we have a really sticky customer that will buy us online or come in store or go to an event or etc. So they really, and most of the retailers that I talk to, they really value like how sticky our brand is, how much our customer repurchases, not that they might just buy us once because the packaging is cute, but they will buy us 4 or 5 times and like really incorporate us into their routine. I think that's more of what like Sephora wants.
So I'm wondering, we all know, right, 2021, it seems like things were booming in all the spaces, and I'm wondering, is it tougher now, right? Like if you encounter one of those founders, like at a meetup you mentioned earlier, that is like, oh, CPG, I want to start a product targeting deeper skin tones in this other way, would you tell them like, don't do it, it's too late, or do you think there's opportunity?
I wouldn't say it's too late, but the space has changed. I mean, celebrity skincare is booming, and people try to pretend they're so cool that they're not utilizing or purchasing these brands, but they are. And it's very hard to compete with Selena Gomez's budget and popularity. And so it means that when certain brands are doing these outsized numbers, it's harder to raise. It's harder to maintain a shelf space when we sit in Sephora next to Scarlett Johansson's brand.
Wow.
I don't know how it's doing, but I know Scarlett Johansson, and so it makes it really difficult to compete. It changes the numbers. It changes what retailers want from you, what investors expect from you. And yeah, it changes what social media looks like when I'm the founder of my brand and Scarlett Johansson is the founder of hers. Like, so it really raises the bar. But I kind of am interested in what things will look like in the next couple of years, because I hope that there will be sort of a burst to the bubble, because so many brands have launched in the last handful of years. And I think customers are like overwhelmed. They want niche, they want these specific things to be addressed, but I don't think they want to like dig through so much to figure out. I can't remember the term you said earlier, Taylor, but it was so good.
Low trust.
But like what they can really rely on. So I think there's going to be a burst, and it'll be interesting to see. I think it'll affect indie brands more roughly, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
In your experience, do the celebrity brands actually, like, are they really involved in the brands, or do they just kind of lend their name to it and
I think
they
you see different things. I mean, I know when I go to, Sephora has this like Grammys every year, where all of their brands, or not all of them, but a few hundred of their brands and marketing leads and sales leads will come in. And what you will see is that the heads of these celebrity brands are people that have been in the industry forever. So the presidents and marketing directors and et cetera are like industry bosses. And so I think, different celebrities have different involvements in their brands, but no one is in the C-suite of their own brand, because if you have the resources, why would you do that?
Yeah.
So Scarlett Johansson does not show up at the Sephora Grammy.
Johansson, Selena,
They're not there.
They're not
Beyonce at Brand Summit. No.
Kylie Jenner, they're all there. The actual Grammys. All right. So, well, look, this has been incredible. We learned so much, and really appreciate you sharing. And as we wrap up, want to share one life hack that we could share. Taylor, do you want to go first?
I do. Yeah. So I just got back from New York like 6 hours ago. And this was the first trip I've taken in a long time where I did one bag. So no suitcase, just a backpack. And yeah, it's pretty like, because I fly LAFK and I'll usually take the subway, I'll take the train in. And just like, like going up the stairs and everything on the JFK side is so kind of clumsy with suitcase. And
Yeah.
so I bought a bigger bag. And so that's kind of my life hack. So I was testing out this theory of, if I buy a really obnoxiously large backpack, could I carry it around the city? Can I like fit enough stuff into it? And the answer, and my hack is, at least for me, the answer is yes. Like I was very pleasantly surprised. I really got a new bag because I wanted the slip on, how when you have a suitcase and then you put the bag, it just slides off of the rail. And my old one, I had to turn it and do it, and I hated it. So I got one that I could just slip on. And I'm not here to recommend any specific type of brand, but just the hack for me was the ability that I could do like 4 or 5 days, I think. Backpack. Is that a lot or a little? I don't know.
This is my bag for today.
Oh, okay. So just 4 of those. This one had, here's the real hack. This one had a separate compartment for shoes. So it had like a little, like a dirty clothes at the very, very bottom. I don't use it for shoes. I use it for my toiletries, all my serums and creams.
Nice.
So my hack is that I don't think I need a suitcase for some of these trips. I think I could just keep it all on my back. It's much simpler.
I love that for you.
Yeah, for me. Yeah. Flavio, what about you? What's your hack?
Let's see. I've been doing some research into credit cards. It's like a thing that I go down a rabbit hole, and there's a few actually that I'm currently. Well, personally, I think the Robinhood, Robinhood the app, it's got the 3% cashback credit card, which I think is like the best you can have out there. For business, it's a little harder. For banking, I'm trying to decide like the traditional route, or there's these banks like I'm just sharing my screen right now. There's
Yeah,
one called Meow. Do you know about this
I
already?
don't.
So there's business banking these days that gives you a little better deal. That they give you interest on your cash, on like Bank of America. And these guys don't give you anything and charge you for everything. Plus, they have like corporate cards with 2% cashback, which is not as good as the Robinhood 3%, but it's still pretty good. And then found that like there's another one called Parker that I just ran into one of the founders on the street. This is kind of what New York
Yeah.
gives you, and it also, see, what you do here is actually they tend to target SaaS and e-commerce brands because of the need for cash flow, and
Yeah, I love
so
it.
we might do this. One of the things they do is every statement is based on like 30 days from the purchase. So rather than have monthly
Oh,
statements
that's
that's all the same date, that you have to pay for something you bought yesterday as well as something you bought a month ago, they kind of roll it always on a 30-day basis. So you always have 30 days to pay it from the time you
so you
bought
get a
it.
payment every day.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I guess money in, money out, it's still
I guess so.
small payment. I love this.
They basically keep your cash as long as possible. It's Parker.com that I'm sharing here, which hey, for a lot of brands or companies that matters, and not to mention that's time you're making more interest on that cash, right? So you're literally actually like getting more out of your credit cards and banking. So just want to share those
That
as
hack doesn't compare at all. My hack is, I thought it was so good. And now I'm like wanting to write down your hack. Taylor's hack, I don't even comprehend.
Yeah, like, how can you do
Does
that?
not compute. But so my hack is not as strong right now, but maybe there is a very busy mom out there who it might resonate with. I started the new year, like I start many New Year's, saying I'm going to work out. And like a good founder, I need to work out at 5:30 a.m. because I read somewhere that that's the time that successful people work out. And I have kids that go to school by 8. So, my mom friend who actually works out said, I drop my kids off and then I work out. And I start my day at 10. I actually start my day at 10 all of the time. I never am like taking calls at 9 a.m. because really, who do I need to speak to at 9 a.m.? If I'm lucky enough to be in the office at 9 a.m., it's a good time to have like quiet, thoughtful time. So my hack was to work out after drop off and more so to be realistic about who I am and not like who I think I should be. Because I realized that it's very easy to make goals for, what you think a successful person, a busy person, an organized person looks like. But if you're really like not working out at 5:30, you haven't all last year, maybe like do it post drop off. You're already outside, your, wheels have started to move. So that I guess is my sort of mompreneur busy, hack is to just be honest and like work out post drop off if your schedule allows. But
I love it.
it's not as good
and
as
try to sleep at 5 a.m. if you can or work out.
yes, I'm being awakened at 5:30 by a little person that, had a nightmare. So yeah, that's my
Totally.
hack.
Oh, I love it. Well, Desiree, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate your time and your wisdom. And I just ordered some more products, so I'm excited.
It was so great chatting with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you for rocking with the homies. Taylor, Trusty, and Flavio. Seize the day, own it. Until next time, hold it down, hold it down. Hey.